Alex Jones here, folks, with Dispatch. Thanks for making the trip up.
Yeah, thanks. It's a whole new world in Tehachapi.
It's your first trip?
Yeah. I remember the first time I went to Midland in the oil patch, and it was like, wellheads and everything else as far as the eye could see, and this is a different place.
It's okay. Not wellheads, wind turbines, and lots of different ones. And it's just sort of scattered, not like the new power plants you were saying, where there's nice rows and
there's
simple roads.
Wind farms laying on top of one another, different makes, models, sizes. It's crazy.
Some of these roads are four-wheel drive, heavy rock, chewing up tires, and cliff drop-offs, right? Like, you have to be comfortable on the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
to cruise around.
Yeah, no, you have to stay alert for sure.
I'm glad you made the trip up. I appreciate your enjoying Tehachapi. I've lived here a long time. I love it, and we talk a lot about the history here, and it's got that. So I'm glad you liked it and made the trip up. But and you're in town for Intersolar.
Yep.
Nice San Diego.
Yeah.
Weather will be good for us this week, I hope.
It looks good, yeah.
Yeah.
No rain, nothing crazy.
Yeah. San Diego's good about that, like 73 degrees every day, all the time.
Yeah, if I leave the swamps of Houston, though, I know I have to keep chapstick and everything else because, I'm used to that nice balmy humidity,
Man. I did Iowa for maybe 9 years, and I think it took me 3 to get used to the humidity.
Yep. Yeah, goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways. Right on. Okay. Well, appreciate you making it up. And, we want to talk about the Dispatch software, and you have a very unique and fun story. Maybe just tell us a little bit about, and we'll go back in time later, but go over that, where did Dispatch come from? Renewable. This is an amazing story.
Yeah, for sure. So really it all began with, prior life worked in the oil patch in the fracking side. And we started looking at different problems we could solve as a piece of software. And, we kind of honed in on this, a lot of fatalities out in West Texas on some of the roads. And so we had, it was actually a drilling engineer that turned onto the reservoir side. And he told me that when his wife found out that he was moving from drilling to reservoir, she cried. And to me, that didn't make any sense. But apparently she was just always stressed out that he was driving on those roads. And anyway, lots of bad things happening out there. And so we went and built out, navigation to every single oil well, facility, so on and so forth. Became the most used app at the company. And we're like, okay, this is pretty cool. We're solving a problem directly for the guys in the field, so on and so forth. And so when we got into the renewable space, that was kind of an inkling in the back of our mind. And we got to talking to a bunch of wind techs. And the story we kept hearing was, okay, if I am late to the O&M building at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, I'm going to get yelled at or lose my job. So on Sunday, they would drive out into the desert, they'd pin the O&M building on Google Maps, and then map my run back with breadcrumbs. And all of that was unpaid time, taken away from their families, just to make sure they didn't get yelled at. And to me, that felt a little ungentlemanlike or disrespectful of the folks that, really are doing all of the work and their time. And so we set out to solve that. And we came to the conclusion that we should make this just an available safety type feature for the industry. And so we believe we've mapped every turbine in the US, Canada, and Mexico, and then 2.5 million roads that drive up to the base of them. A little bit of a labor of love, but and that functionality has driven almost all of our organic usage from technicians and whatnot in the field.
Okay, the Dispatch, so was that with Renewables where the idea for the software came from? It was that need? It was those technicians that were spending the extra time to find the O&M office ahead? Okay.
Yep.
So you were solving a problem that was identified. You solve for that problem, you become your own, you're buying the product the most, right, yourself, sure. And then decided to make it its own entity and offer it to anyone.
Yep. And so as we got into that, it was like, okay, let's go through the day to day of, what problems can we solve? Where do we think we can earn the right to win? Is how we kind of think about it. And so we think we've found something similar in the prevailing wage apprenticeship space of just how do we make that a lot easier? And some of that is, okay, if you think about if you repower or build a new site, you then have a 5-10 year commitment to any work order that falls under repair and maintenance has to be, recorded, and prevailing wages have to be paid for that. And so we've built a lot of functionality around that we think makes it a lot easier than anything else in the market. But yeah, there's just a bunch of problems that have come up in the course of living, breathing, being one of those entities that we get a nice, front row seat as to what problems could be.
Right. Because you're living them.
Yeah.
Right. You're living the problem and then finding the solution. I think what I love the most about the dispatch software is that you didn't keep it for yourself.
Sure.
You gave it to anyone that wanted to use it. And yeah, there's some free service, there's some paid services. I get it. That's what all good software does. Yep. But you made it available to everyone else. There are a lot of companies out there that are solving their own problems with software, and they're not making it available, right? Sure. Really trying to protect it, make it IP. If you can patent it, yep. and then keep it to themselves. Where I love that you said, here's a problem in the industry. It's not just our problem. It's a problem
Sure.
for everybody. And here's a solution. And yeah, we want to be paid for it a little bit, but fine.
Yep.
You should be paid for it. More and more companies taking that approach, and it's going to just strengthen the entire industry.
Yep. And, it was kind of surprising to me when starting here, in the oil patch, there's an API number, American Petroleum Institute number for every well, and then you can get, the latitude and longitude of it. So there was at least a known standard. And when you get into the wind space, USGS publishes something that's however many months behind, and there's a handful of sites and turbines missing, but that's about as close as you get. And then it has a number, but nothing that a technician can relate to, right? It's not T15, it's some 12-digit number that, no one necessarily knows off the top of their head. So, just making that really easy. And we've come to find that that as an enterprise problem is, it sounds really silly, but it's kind of a big deal of just asset owners and all their service providers need to speak the same language of I need to know what work order you worked on and how many hours and how much money was spent for every single tower, and just making sure your billing department and technicians and can send that information to an asset owner the way they expect it is, it sounds silly to describe, but I don't know how many man hours a year are spent on that copy and pasting and, anyway.
A lot. And then you were commenting earlier about sometimes the extra labor and demand on the technician.
Yep.
It is a bit of a problem.
Yeah. And, if you can just take those problems out of their lives, to me, it's you're giving them time back with their family, doing the things they want to do in life and, solving a problem that computers should solve. But, to me, that's ultimately where you need to focus software is it's pretty easy to pull a whiteboard out and be here's the graph this executive wants or the metric that executive wants. And so many companies start there and then they push forms and reporting and all these requirements to folks in the field. We like to try to solve the problem in the reverse order is how do I do something delightful for the tech, make their lives easier, and then turn that into something that's valuable for the back office, whether that's easier billing or better timekeeping or those sort of things. So
yeah, save us time.
Yeah.
Right. Too much of the digital era has demanded more time from us.
Yep.
It's just some sort of learning curve, right? We've all had to get used to it, but yeah, there's got to be the point where it helps us.
Yeah, and then if you just multiply the number of people, the amount of money people spend on software to save the bean counters and lawyers and executives' time, and then you have 500 times more technicians. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Yeah. All right. I want to unpack it. I got several questions there. I wanted to say that I downloaded the app for a little bit and I've used it once in a while. It is very easy to use. I'm a little old fashioned where I don't even like using the map features to get me places.
Sure.
I like to just learn, and then no.
Fair. Yeah.
But it's funny. Somebody, I think that was the first time I heard about it was you can find a wind turbine. And then somebody else said, well, you can find the O&M building and they're so hard to find. And I went, I've never had a hard time. But I've been doing it so long that I know where people put O&M buildings just logically when they're building a site.
Sure.
Follow the power lines to the substation. It's probably pretty close. Or there's a spot in town, if it's a small town and they didn't do it, and you can usually find that little commercial building on the outskirts. But I'm not the norm. Right.
Yep.
I'm not the norm. So I get it. And people use it. And then it has a little extra information about the turbine, right? So you know
Yep.
what kind of turbine.
Yeah, make, model, owner. We've gotten sort of weird feedback. So we've been rolling out, we built a tool called Oversight where folks can come in, they can manage their data, they can add forms, they can add documents, all that sort of fun stuff. The notion being, if there's a 911 call that Tower 10 is on fire, you can roll it out with the fire department and ambulance and so on and so forth, and they will be able to navigate directly there, not waste a ton of time, so on and so forth. But we found sheriffs that will call us and have told us they've used it for a random landowner will call them yelling and screaming that some turbine is too loud. And then the sheriff is supposed to track down the owner and the O&M building. And it's like this curious niche little problem.
Okay.
But there's like 5 or 6 sheriffs in West Texas that have gotten to be like pretty big champions or demand that, local companies use the app, which is, yeah, fair enough. But
Fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's thank our friends over at Renew Safety, your proactive partner in safety solutions. With comprehensive safety consulting, ensuring compliance with all safety regulations and standards. Expert staffing solutions, providing trained safety professionals tailored to your project's needs. Commitment to sustainability, promoting a safe and sustainable working environment. Contact Renew Safety at info@renewsafety.com and speak to one of their industry experts about their proven track record for safety management on numerous projects. Or perhaps you're looking for construction safety staffing, contractor monitoring, incident investigation, or program development and training. Check out Renew Safety at renewsafety.com. And that's a huge benefit. And it is a problem when emergency services don't know the site and the layout and the locations. I remember when we'd build sites, we would have, we'd have to meet with them, right? It was part of the permitting process, and they'd have maps and train their people, and this just takes all of that away.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. And prevailing wage. And I know you've explained that part to me before. The IRA came out, prevailing wage, all of these things, the apprenticeship, track hours, certified payroll, yada, yada. And there wasn't a solution for our industry.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a solution for really small companies, like rip and replace your payroll system, use a payroll system that does that. We found that it didn't support 401k and healthcare benefits and all the things that we thought bigger companies would need, or at least not every sort of big company provider. And then on the very far side of that spectrum were basically tools you could dump information into, or just auditors that you email payroll records to. And so we've been through that pain. And in that process, we were like, okay, let's just have all of these calcs happen inside of a timekeeping tool. So now we do down to the penny reconciliation of here's what you must pay someone based on these hours and wage classifications and so on and so forth. And we show that to you before you pay payroll. So, and anyway, we do what we call an expectation versus obligation calc. And so we're not only running the federal overtime standards times the wage determination, but like all the state laws and making sure that you're compliant in, 3-4 different lenses. But making it so that, if a 3 guys in a truck want to go found a service company, they don't necessarily have to go become tax attorneys or all the other nonsense that it takes to comply. And I think that's ultimately what we have to have for the industry scale is you've got to be able to invite new talent, new service companies, and new folks in and make the hurdles not, you've got to go spend God knows how much time figuring out all these problems. And so our hope is for those companies from 3 to 250 folks, like we can avoid them necessarily needing to go get, an IT person and all these extra admins in that scaling process.
I love that. And you support competition in your own area with that.
Yeah.
What's that like? That's a bit unique.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think we've got a a vision that we need to, lower the cost of clean energy. Like that fundamentally is the edict and mission. And then, having come from the oil patch, there's such a robust and massive service industry that like you have to have those things. You need to invite competition, not because you necessarily it's in, one or another company's, sole interest, but I mean, that is what it takes to scale. And quite frankly, I see it as, I think a lot of asset owners are weighing the decision of, do we go full union or do we keep, a wider network of providers? And we think we can help bridge that gap versus, just moving all projects over to the union side.
Right. So it's there's motivation there to serve the entire industry, right, and serve the country and the needs and wants of the citizens.
Yeah. And I mean, I think some of it is when you look at some of the O&M providers or OEMs, they've bundled a lot of their forms and software with their services. And if you ever want to have one without the other, it's this really nasty divorce of like, I need my data and I need it out of your systems. And,
Okay, you're making me a fan of dispatch software. I'm gonna be honest. I have spent time with software development initiatives, things like that at General Electric.
Yep.
And now this point in my life, what I know is I don't want to have anything to do with developing software.
Sure.
How did you? And because there's so many companies doing it.
Yep.
And you're right. And then they become competition, and at some point in the years to come, you're going to see which ones fell apart.
Sure.
And then you end up with the top few, and that's what happens with development and in these eras. What made you want to get into it? Background in software?
Okay. Yeah. So started out career at Cameron. They build big metal stuff for the oil and gas industry. They got bought by Schlumberger, all those things. And I got like a deep enough experience into SAP, which I lovingly refer to as Satan's accounting program. And I realized that there is no way that I would spend the rest of my career working on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, regardless of titles, more or less, I spent more time than I wanted being a column pusher, which was an executive was like, I want in this report a column that is A plus B plus C. And holy moly, like it is hard to like want to get up in the morning when you're just, anyway. So it wasn't so much the actual logic. It was now we have 6 weeks of testing in order to just like make something happen. And so after that, this company EOG, Enron Oil and Gas came knocking, and I've listened to some of your podcasts, and like it's the parallels between Enron and buying in the wind space. I mean, this is a hot take, especially from someone from Houston, but like there's a lot of really cool things that came out of Enron.
There is.
And there's obviously one really, really bad thing, or two or three, from Enron. But, you look at their pipelines, they're now Kinder Morgan, their trains are with Berkshire Hathaway, their wind turbines are with GE. Like you go through and like top to bottom, I mean, EOG was in the fracking space. I mean, they've got market leaders in almost every big industrial thing they touched. And so really enjoyed their culture. And so I went from this space of like, make me a column that is A plus B plus C. Like that was the task handed to me on a day in the job. And right when I started with EOG, I asked my boss like what it is he wanted to see from me. And I got the experience of like working for a crazy person. I mean that very lovingly. Sandeep was definitely mentor, inspiration, all those things. But his explanation to me was, Alex, your job is very simple. Implicit to you coming to work every day, you get dollars, right? I'm like, yep, nope, that's fair. I need you to go to your office and slam your face against the keyboard until money comes out. And then fill up a pail with all the money. And at the end of every day, dump it on my desk. And a year from now, Bill, at the time our CEO, will come in and be like, where is Sandeep? Because he can't see me over all the money sitting on my desk. And I was like, great, okay, well, he doesn't know what he wants me to do. Like, what the heck is this?
Great talk.
Yeah, it was like, okay, okay. And it took me a little while to like parse that signal of more or less like, you know what you are capable of and your skill set. Go find problems in this business and solve them by applying that. And that was like radically more ambiguous than anything I'd had before. But anyway, so I sat on the data science side writing algorithms and realized really the only way for those to be effective was we had to put them in the hands of the dudes in the field. And like we had to get their feedback and tell them, hey, this is completely wrong. And so that sort of got me in the motion of like, let's go meet and work with folks. And that is like, there's so much lost sitting in a corporate office. And so that I finally started to realize like, oh, like it doesn't matter how much we code. Like you really have to understand this last mile. And that part I've really enjoyed. So yeah,
You had to follow around the user, the
Yeah.
end user.
yeah.
Is where you have, yes, okay. That's often the big gap. The folks writing the software are sitting in a room.
Oh yeah.
They've never done that job. And they're just making assumptions, or they get on a few meetings, they learn a couple of things, but they were 1 or 2 questions deep. They weren't 5 or 6 questions deep to really understand.
Right.
So you went out and followed the technicians and
Follow the technicians.
find out what the life's like.
Got the things that were frustrating to them, and then sometimes you unlock that one little nugget of wisdom that like didn't make sense when you're sitting in corporate office, and like it completely changes how things are working. And so I think that's been the thing that served me the best career-wise, is just get down to the what I think of as the force multiplier layer, right? Like the hundreds of people using it, not the people consuming the reports in the middle or highest levels of the company.
Yeah, but that's usually how it happens.
Right.
You said it earlier. The executive says, I need this report. Here's what I need to look like. And then you force this ripple effect backwards, and you've created a whole lot more churn.
And somehow now, every person in the field needs to go fill out 80 more questions a day. And it's like, how did this become that? But
Across 7 different forms.
right.
At this specific time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's silliness, but
Right. And make sure you have a network connection.
yep.
Right. Which is not often the case at a wind turbine.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. So you had a background in software, so you thought, I can solve this problem.
Yep.
And put the team together and went after it.
Yeah. And then it's been iterative. Everyone has my phone number, which is sometimes great, sometimes awful. My brother for many years was a wind tech and would put me on blast in front of my own mother and father. But like, we have a family group text, and he would be like, this button's not working, screenshot. And I'm like, you have my number. Like you can, anyway.
This is great.
And so,
I'm telling mom.
yeah. And then I'd come home and mom's like, why are my photos not working? Also, are you good at this? And I'm like, oh, thanks, Mom. Like,
So
Lord.
glad I'm here for the holidays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do these 2 things for you. But yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. No, I get it. If you got something you can fix, got to fix it for the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps us honest.
Keeps us honest. All right. Yeah. Okay. We both worked for Enron, so that's a good connection. And you're right. It isn't all bad things. It ended badly, and that's what gets remembered.
Yep.
Right. The folks that lost out financially, the folks that lost their jobs, lawsuits, and all those negative things.
Yeah.
But there were great things that came up of it.
Yep.
What's their book? Smartest People in the Room or something? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You watch some of those movies and things, and you walk away with like not a super great impression. But yeah, I think there was a neat culture of ownership. They empowered people to like accomplish a lot of things. At least that was the experience I had. And like there wasn't a bunch of task maker middle management. It was more or less you could describe what people did and how they added value. And I thought that was super cool. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there were some great things, that's for sure. Have you seen this new thing? Man, I'm going to digress for a second.
Oh, yeah.
The Enron egg.
Oh, Have
you seen this on
revamped
social
the logo,
media?
and yeah, there
then-
were billboards in Houston. And
No way.
oh yeah,
But this is a fictitious product, right?
I think they sell T-shirts. I think that's what they're doing.
But of this egg?
Definitely of the Enron logo.
It's like a tabletop nuclear device.
yeah. I don't know about all those. Like, I don't know if I'd buy that, but I think you can buy like sweaters and T-shirts and coffee mugs and.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, good for them.
Yeah, because
People-
they bought the domain or something, or
Yeah, and they have rights to the logo, and so they can print it, and yeah.
All right. Nope. I saw that a month ago or so, and it made me want to crawl up in the attic and see if I have anything in a box still.
Yeah, I have
Probably got a few Enron things up there.
I have an Enron, it might be wind hat. And yeah, one of my buddies saw it on someone's head floating in the river and asked if they could buy it off of them and did. And so it's like well used, but yeah.
They're collector's items now.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to put that in the baseball card box if they're collector items now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. So dispatch software for locations. Then it morphs into data collection from the technician, work completed, compiled for company reports. And then, hey, we got this IRA prevailing wage apprenticeship. So you add this feature.
Yep.
Do you keep going? Are you going to use this platform? You find the next problem and say, let's add the solution?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of software is every time you give a mouse a cookie, there's 100 more requests. So yeah, no, I think there's a lot more to still do. But yeah, I like the open source-ish philosophy around a lot of this of, hey, we'll go ahead and maintain the map for every wind, solar, battery, whatnot site and be opinionated. But we've done like the same thing in forms. So anyone who downloads Dispatch, they get put into our demo company and it's got OSHA safety forms and event reporting and blah, 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 blah. And it's, to me, it's a little bit crazy and almost an inhibitor of long-term scale that when you show up to a site, this site has 3 different questions than every other site for their corporate form. And I know that this isn't like the problem that people want to spend their lives working on, but I think until there's like a really well-defined standard, you're going to keep having this just crazy sprawl. And okay, what does all that result in? I think it results in, 1, you've got people still using paper forms, and 2, every time a service company wants to get into the space, they're copying more or less all the forms that their clients expect of them. And so instead of a few people being able to come into the industry, start a service company, care a lot, win some work, they kind of have to figure out, how do I go build a form tool and how do I architect it so it scales, and not like all the stuff that, I don't know, you shouldn't need to do day one.
Yeah, no, it's true. Okay, on the safety forms, that one kind of bothers me the most, right? Because there's nothing proprietary about safety.
Sure.
Right. And if you walk onto a site and you have 2 lotto forms or 2 safety protocol procedures that aren't the same, this always kind of makes me nervous. And the answer is you just go with whichever one's the best, right? And then who decides that, right? Well, now you have to bring in somebody that has the experience, the knowledge, and expertise. This is the best in the right way. That's a tougher one. So I like that you're trying to offer some standardization for the safety bits, some's OSHA, and things like that, because it should not be proprietary.
Yep.
Yeah. They should be, almost public.
Yep.
From any site, any OEM, any development, the power plant itself. It's just to keep people safe.
Yep.
And you're right. A service report, you and I could go in different rooms and write a service report, and they're probably going to look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
When we get back together. There's not a lot of magic to the service report.
It's interesting of like, you wouldn't think there was passion about this, but there's people who will pound the table like these 3 questions must exist. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Maybe they wrote it.
Yeah.
It's
maybe,
very emotional connection or something.
Or some incident. Sure.
Or some incident.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd like to take this time to thank another one of our wonderful sponsors, Podge Engineering. Podge Engineering, making wind and solar all we know it can be. Are your renewable energy assets underperforming or not performing at all? Did you expect many years of longevity and they're failing on you now? Podge LLC offers many customized, engineered products and solutions to get these assets back on track. Podge Engineering also performs root cause analysis, engineering services, procurement, and construction. Visit podge.org. That's PADGE.org. Remember Podge, making wind and solar all we know it can be. I'm impressed. There are companies that go out and tackle software and are not this successful. And in the time frame, how old is Dispatch?
Yeah, so first line of code 3-ish years ago.
Okay.
And then released about 2.5. And I'm been terrible at marketing. There's been other stuff to do. But the word of mouth from folks in the field has been phenomenal. And we broke 50,000 folks that just heard about it. I wouldn't say a mistake, but sort of naively emailed folks and was like, if you want some stickers, send us your address. And there's just a whole logistics operation you got to stand up to, like, put stickers together and put them in envelopes. And anyway,
yes,
we got better response than I was expecting. But I didn't fully think the logistics of that one through when I did that. So anyway, but now there's a bunch of hard hat stickers out there that, I don't know, are help accelerate people figuring out that it exists and downloading it. So yeah.
I don't know if I noticed the email, but I want a sticker.
Yeah. No, that's easy.
You don't have to mail it.
Oh, done. Yeah.
We talk about that. You're right. But branding's important.
Yeah.
And you clearly spend a lot of time on the name and the brand and the colors and all the things and awareness. And
yeah.
You don't strike me as liking the marketing side as much.
Yeah, I mean, so we went through, I've been a part of like the marketing thing, and there are people who like, it is their profession, right? And so I've gone through the thing of like, here's 100 different options of what your logo could be. And there's like a very creative type that comes and talks about feelings and emotions and this and that. And I'm like, great, yeah, that all sounds good. But a little bit of our thought was Dispatch, our logo being a D, and then we liked the military sort of aspect of wind and like how many people are coming from that. And so it's kind of like a sideways chevron, and like we did put some thought, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. I like that. I didn't think about that sideways chevron, but right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, very cool. I don't like logo design either.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't even pick out the color paint for a wall if you ask me to.
Yeah.
Not me.
No, I feel that.
Not me.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad you got that response, and that's fast. So from first line of code to users, what was that time? Because you said it's 3.5 years now.
Yeah, it's about three
from
since
first line of code.
About 2.5 years where public folks could download. Yeah.
For the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, so it got released 2.5 years ago, and by word of mouth, grown since then. But it's definitely been one of those exponential curves of like once you hit critical mass, it starts growing pretty quickly.
Maybe I didn't hear this right. From first line of code to people downloading it was 6 months then?
Yep.
That's fast.
Yeah,
that's fast for software.
We were cranking for a while there. So,
all in-house.
All in-house.
So this was hire the right people and go to work.
Yeah, no, we've got a pretty cool group of folks. My co-founder, this guy Reed, he's mapped almost every single road out there, and his joke is there's a lot of hours of commercial-free football on Sundays, and he just sits there while he's watching and maps Clichy and all of that. And then we've hired a handful of like pretty cool like nationally ranked skiers and pole vaulters, and Reed's national champion in butterfly and swimming space, and so like guys that just wake up and want to get after it, and it's like let's tackle this thing and get to it, and there's something kind of cool about just putting your head down and cranking away.
Those athletes are your software writers?
They are, yeah.
Interesting.
So, they offset me being the fat kid on the team, but yeah, we'd probably make a pretty good, softball team or something. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And oh man, I did never think about that. But yes, they have that competitive drive.
Yeah.
Failure's not an option, and very driven individuals if they're that kind of athlete.
Well, when there's a special person that you can take and drop them in the field, and they can hang out with some technicians and hear about their problems and not just be the awkward, oh no, the sun software person who can, appreciate what they're doing, live the life, do the whole thing.
Oh no, the sun, and a 6-pack of Red Bulls somewhere.
Touch grass, kids, get out there.
Touch grass. Oh, very cool. What made you, or how did you recruit in that space, or was it to just happen naturally?
Yeah, at some point started doing that when I was at EOG, so pulled a lot of those folks. And then, yeah, when you go to recruit people, it's like, can I picture dropping this person into the field and serving this customer? Like, and a lot of software devs, I feel super comfortable dropping them into other IT teams at a corporate site or so on and so forth. But like, can this person go sit with an MCE team, hear their problems, come back and solve them for them, and like empathize with that person? And that's not every software developer.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's maybe none that I've ever met. So nice job putting that piece together. That, I think, is a very key piece of the recipe that made you successful in this space.
Yeah. My goal is a little greedy of like, I don't want to hire people who don't code. So
Sure.
I need to have the folks that like, that means the developers themselves need to figure out the problem, figure out the solution, design it end to end, and like own that part of the tech stack. And so most people put a bunch of layers of people who don't code that like gather information, form us, and there's so much lost in the translation and telling I hung out with this person, they describe these problems, blah, 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 blah. So trying to short circuit just that.
Yeah.
So
okay, funny story. When I found myself in the world of software development, just on the outskirts at GE.
Staring at Satan's accounting program, feeling the warmth. Yeah.
Oracle. But
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but no, I'm familiar with Satan's accounting program too. Yeah, so GE has, they do a lot of digital stuff. So there's software people all over the place.
Yep.
And we wanted to do something like that to say, help the technicians.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm supposed to help out. And all I kept getting these questions from the software people, just tell us what you want automated. And I'm trying to walk it through and like, what job? I'm like, there's not a job, right? It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of this.
Yep.
And we couldn't translate. So I ended up hiring 2 people under what I called Operation Analog.
Okay.
So I had these 2 people that would take all of the admin work from a group of technicians and just do that. And then I had I think it got up to like 6 or 7 people, right?
Yep.
So it was like, hey, the technicians were loving this. I'm like, okay, those humans automated. I don't know how that happens, but this is everything that's, we're calling the waste in the field. And I think today GE's got quite a bit of that software running, but Operation Analog was my joke to it and
nice.
What I could do to help in this area because it is so difficult. You found the people that would go to the field and could really talk to the techs and understand the process enough and then go write the code.
Well, and then they just share contact info and the person. And so, once a tech in the field knows you well enough that they can call you and be like, not this, you've got, that just short circuits the feedback loop so aggressively that like, then you can go ship a thing. And then once you meet a person and you know them and they describe to you like, I spent my entire Sunday not going to see my kids, not doing all these other things because your tool sucks, or this form was really long, or it wasn't, now it's like, okay, it would be rude of me not to spend the extra hours to like go fix this and have some sense of urgency. And like, it's really hard when there's multiple layers of people between that conversation,
Yeah.
Like a lot of developers just see like, this is high priority, in their little ticket tool. And it's like, well, okay, well, it's high priority, but like we're also forcing people to work every weekend. And so it's hard to shove that into a lot of software tools.
Yeah. I'm happy you're doing it and definitely successful with it. I know it is not my space. I can't live there. It felt like just working on the same thing over and over for like a year and I learned a new term, this MVP. Yep. MVP. And I always thought it would be something we could use each time. No.
Yeah.
It's a picture of something you can use.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a tough time in that.
Yep.
And software is, it's a big deal. There's a lot of companies trying to solve this problem together. It almost feels, I'm going to say it, a little predatorial to companies and users, myself. I know I'm not going to put that team together and do it. It's not my space.
Sure.
Right. So we buy stuff and there's so many offers and so many people out there trying to sell different pieces of software. You get a little nervous,
Yep.
right? You feel like you're at the used car lot, you know, and you
Oh,
got
yeah.
smooth talking salesman, right? Or what's the other one? Do they still do this at the fairs? And you walk through and you got to throw a ball and they're all yelling at you to
Oh,
come
yeah.
over here and play this game. It's tough. But you guys came out and said, hey, it's free. Like, we did this work, use it. And if you're loving it, maybe you'll buy these other services from us.
Sure.
As they should.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been on both sides of that table, and, you know, there's some software teams that it's like, look, just give us $1 million in 18 months and you're going to love what comes out the other end. And it's like, holy moly. And those are very successful software companies. And I'm like, we'll give you a login and you can play with it, and you can download it on the App Store today. And so, you know, kick the tires, see what you think. That's, if I can't sell free, you know, first taste, then put me behind the barn or drag me back there. But yeah.
I assume all the renewable employees are using this.
Oh yeah. We dog food, everything. Sure.
You're your biggest customer.
Oh yeah.
And that's how you know it. Other people are going to want it.
Yep.
If you can sell it to yourself.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it accelerates, and, you know, it's like this incubator of, and everything of like the same clients and things demanding stuff. It's one of the fastest signals that we have. And, you know, sometimes parsing that from a client is really challenging. So having folks that are willing to yell at you about, like, I need this yesterday. My guess is a lot of other companies need this yesterday. So.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Altair Energy Services, and their highly trained, expert technical staff, leveraging decades of renewable power management experience into customized solutions for everyone to meet their energy goals and contribute to a better future for all. Altair's team of hardworking, respected experts are providing full-scope, turnkey repairs, planned and unplanned maintenance, system upgrades, fully autonomous technical crews, supplemental staffing, and customized dynamic scheduling to fit your power production needs. Contact Altair at info@altairenergyservices.com and learn more about their wide range of capabilities across multiple power technologies and platforms. All right, tell me a little bit about the founding story of Renewable, because I didn't really know that much about it, other than hear about it adjacently. You know, big booth at ACP last year and the year before probably, and you know, you look like one of the, you know, top 3 probably ish ISPs in our country.
Yep.
I didn't know it was. Tell me the startup story, because I thought it would just be around forever and I didn't hear about it.
Yeah. So, you know, back when I was at EOG, got to know sort of the private equity group that came to pull things together, and they would come to EOG, find a problem in the market, and more or less EOG would sign a contract with them. They would bring that to investors, grab debt or equity, and build companies. And there's like public companies, a bunch of different things in the oil patch where that's happened. And like, to me, that's the mark of a mature industry, is there's a whole network of capital and different things that come together to make that happen. And so this thesis got formed of like, let's go build something in renewable, or in the renewable space. And so, you know, our founder, like on the private equity side, has sold a handful of companies to Berkshire Hathaway. More or less, Berkshire said, hey, we really want something mature in this space with a lot of scale. Will you build something? We might be interested in buying it. And so that's all he needed to hear to run and sprint and do things. And then it just so happens COVID happens after that. And so the oil market for a handful of months there looked a little rocky. But yeah. And then while all that's happening, I get to experience COVID where, you know, up until that point, every year at EOG was, you know, let's grow 30% more, 40% more, 50% more. And like, how do we scale? And there was always this challenge of like, if we double the number of this or that, like, how do we make that happen? And scale and growth are just, I really like that. It's a challenging problem, so on and so forth. And then it became, okay, well, we're not going to grow as much. Public markets don't want that. Let's just, here's $1, beat it up until a nickel falls out. And like beating costs relentlessly out of a business, like, yes, there's value there, all those things, but like much different world than just breakneck growth. And so got sort of chatting on this front. Really wanted to build some sort of technology in a space that at the time didn't really have anybody that was laser focused. I mean, even now, wind and solar, like total headcount today doesn't necessarily justify like all the investment and things, but it's growing so quickly and it's so nascent that like there's this opportunity to do something that never happened in oil and gas, and that is build an industry standard or build something that solves a problem in such an opinionated and decent way that like the market actually takes to it. And I feel like one of the big challenges, particularly in the software space in oil and gas, was every time there was a cycle, the service companies would say, oh, the price of oil fell, company's not doing as well, we're slashing bonuses, this, that, the other. So, I mean, if you're a software developer and you're sitting at insert big oilfield service company, you know, I could have totally knocked the top out, but now company edict is companies or bonuses are slashed by 50%. And it's like, why would I not go work at Facebook or, you know, Google or this or that? And so I think the industry on the oil field side has had a really, really challenging time, at least in services, maintaining the talent that it would require to build software in the middle market that like is more efficient. And so to me, the opportunity here is if you can build something that becomes that industry standard, like you can have a pretty dominant position, and that's ultimately where you create a ton of value, right? Like if I can be the clearinghouse for just the ID of every turbine, right? Like now service companies can work with asset owners and there's not all this friction on invoicing and blah, 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 blah. As silly as that problem sounds, like at scale, it's kind of a pain. So we kind of took to solving that as like an enterprise problem. And it's not like we knocked on the doors of big enterprises and said, give us all of your turbines. Like no one was ever going to do that. So instead, we got a bunch of technicians who now like almost take it personally that one tower number is wrong, but they will find a way to either text, call, email us, and send all of that. And, you know, I think we've sort of organically or bottoms up done that pretty well. And so, a little bit of a sidetrack there, but we did a bunch of acquisitions on the renewable front. So I came in 22 at the time, just midway through some acquisitions, so on and so forth, and really was like the first second true renewable, air quote, employee not working at an acquired company, and got the wonderful task of like build all internal systems. So payroll, email, NetSuite, blah, 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 like all of that fun jazz that like, yeah, I don't think anyone wants to sign up for, like
back in the house infrastructure.
Yeah. But at some point it was like, okay, we need an email, we need a website, we need a logo. And so cranked those things out. Got just to experience what it takes to bring a bunch of, independent companies together, kind of catch the car on the whole scale and back office thing. And so now we've been able to put more and more of our resources down to that growth and technician side. And really the thesis was, much like some of the large oilfield service companies, have someone with enough scale and breadth and expertise that you can fund R&D. You can go build best-in-class services. You can go figure out what are the services that we see across the industry that folks need, and actually have enough scale that you can invest in them and make money. And so whether that's turnkey services with Liftra and Gearbox, or whether that's a national presence on the solar side, or repowers, full turnkey parts, like it's been interesting of like those are grumblings from clients, and now we've formed teams and built out solutions, and it's been a wild ride.
Wow.
But yeah.
And it's not a quick ride. I mean, it's not a long ride. This is fresh, 22. It's 25 now.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
you guys move fast.
Yeah, move fast, break things, pick yourself up, dust yourself off. It's been it's been great. And, I think the neat part is bringing together that entrepreneurial spirit, and then maintaining that. And that, I think, a lot of really exciting things kind of die as you get bigger. And I think we're still there. We still have, the folks that wake up and they're excited about what they're doing every day. And that there's just magic to that. If you can have a bunch of people independently that are excited about what they're doing, you can bring a lot of really cool things to bear.
Agreed. And you had a group of founders that had experience then,
Right.
Buying companies, merging companies, launching,
Yep.
Identifying problems, applying solutions. in a lot of areas. I mean, so not just software,
Sure.
but you see service, and then you start to drill down, well, which areas of service and which maybe you stay away from, or and not in renewables.
Right.
So a group of founders outside of renewables
Oh yeah.
bring in, now you get fresh ideas as well.
Sure.
Right. Because you didn't maybe grow up with the same problem, or this is the way it's always done kind of thoughts.
Yeah, and in all actuality, like now dispatch, we're out on geothermal and carbon capture and hydrogen prevailing wage projects, and so some of those oil and gas contacts have now become larger customers. So it's been pretty neat. But yeah, if you scroll around the map, you'll find geothermal and pipelines and all sorts of things. They're not hiding; they're out there in public view.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. Did you do this for solar also?
Oh yeah, every utility scale site's mapped. We're continuing to work down the long tail of smaller and smaller megawatts. But yeah, any site that gets touched or that we learn about is added. So yeah,
Unbelievable. Okay, that's impressive. I don't know if there's another software company out there that could have moved faster. That's quick, man. Very quick.
Yeah, we've got
You guys
guys
know what you're doing.
who care and a bunch of technicians that yell at us when it doesn't work. So,
If you don't have the
Carrot and
feedback, you're
stick,
not
you
going to
know?
get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have it. This episode brought to you by RST Cranes. With over 30 years of experience, RST Cranes brings the industry expertise to every project. From wind turbines to solar inverters, mining operations to industrial construction, RST Cranes is your heavy lift specialist, located in Tehachapi, California, and serving the surrounding areas. Contact RST Cranes for your next project at www.rstcranes.com. All right, what are you looking forward to with Inner Solar this week?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like solar's it's a whole different ballgame. And I feel like now that residential isn't the whole industry, well, maybe I'm saying, but like, I don't know, you go to RE Plus and like, there's just a lot of rooftop stuff happening. And now it feels like the utility scale piece is becoming more and more. So I'm excited to see more of that. And it's still, a heck of a lot of solars going up left and right. So, yeah.
Does the dispatch software get into commercial, residential, or that's easy to find on a Google map anyway? Or?
Yeah, we have a good amount of it. It's one of those things that I don't know that I can hang my hat on, like we've got it all, obviously. But yeah, and we've got the ability for folks to go map their own sites and add them as they see fit. But interestingly, we've seen a lot of work programs lately of taking rooftop off, at least on an industrial scale, which has been interesting. But yeah, I guess the insurance risks for some of the folks are just it's not penciling. So anyway.
Yeah, there've been maybe a few component failure kind of situations. But okay, but the software would work for a company that's dispatching text to commercial rooftop, residential repairs even. The software would work for them too, right? It's a service line.
Yep. And you can add private sites, all those things. And yeah, so that's definitely big space.
Oh man. What's next for dispatch then?
Yeah, we've got a few irons in the fire. Working now on like the entire site check-in process. So like the ability to come in, check into the site. Once you're checked in, asset owners being able to more or less see who's on site, and then pairing that up with lightning alerts. So I feel like a lot of lightning alerts are you get mapped to a single site at a single time. It's not that hard to say as I checked in, get those, and then be able to push out forms from like a asset manager level. So here's every form the site needs. If you're coming in to do a job, you get access to those, and then once you leave, you lose access to those. But yeah, trying to collapse the number of apps people need to do their jobs as traveling techs. So that comes into timekeeping, and then notification. Yeah, weather notification. That's a great one. Yeah, and then asset owners being able to push out notifications to every tech on site. So sometimes when you have, I think of it as when I'm on an airplane, I'll get notifications, but I can't read the email. So if you put enough info in the notification itself, it's kind of surprising how thin you need connectivity to be to get something to someone. So yeah, we'll be pushing those out. Yeah.
Very cool. You do, I don't know, custom forms if a asset owner needs to do some sort of retrofit that's unique. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you can come in and I probably spent more time than I want to admit on branching and contingent logic and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, you can go in, build all the forms you like and custom questions, custom drop downs, signatures, photos, all of that fun jazz. So yeah, I think it's pretty darn robust. Yeah.
And you're going to keep going.
At this point, there's only one direction, got to keep sprinting. But yeah.
Got to keep sprinting. Yeah. Back to beating up the keyboard.
That's right. Yeah.
Till money comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really. I feel like I spend too much time waving my hands and salesy stuff these days. But yeah, that's the fun stuff.
It's funny. I talk to a lot of folks that come to this podcast and they claim they're not a salesman. But I'm like, you are a salesman.
Look like a duck, sound like a duck. Yeah.
You opened up with the best pitch I've ever heard about what you got going on.
Yeah.
And no one knows it better,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not excited about what you're doing,
Do
and then
something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
From oil to renewable software to sales.
Yeah, my carbon footprint's falling, all those
Right. Okay.
Reed jokes he used to work at coal-fired power plants and then oil and gas and now on the renewable side. And so, yeah, we're trudging forward.
Yeah. Is that a personal driver?
For Reed, 100%. He's definitely, drank the Kool-Aid. My thought is if you can lower the cost of electricity or energy in general, like it's this massive, you can literally lift people out of poverty, right? And I think that's exciting. And that was a big part of the whole EOG mantra of let's do this. And now with OPEC pulling back production, it's not 100% true. They can't unilaterally be the marginal producer, but I think that's important. And I think that to me is the really exciting part about energy is there's no other industry that takes a concept and scales it to the same level or at the pace. And I mean, whether it's wind, solar, battery, what have you, the ability to change the planet is actually real. And I've got friends who work in finance or in healthcare and they're so handcuffed by, you're not allowed to look at that data unless and it's oh my God, how do you write code? It becomes impossible. But here there's still the ability to make a really big impact really quickly. And I don't know, that's a lot cooler than not being able to have an impact. So
yeah. No, you'd need a bit of a revolution or something in those other industries or career types.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be much more difficult. But here there is the demand. And if you can find the solution, people need it.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people on the permitting side that don't resonate with that experience, but for a lot of the folks in ops and everything else, you can kind of make your mark pretty quick, which is super cool. I mean, as you drive through Tehachapi, it's every generation of wind turbine just sitting next to one another, and it's a
still
constant
running.
innovation. Oh yeah, and different tower types and different blade designs, and it's wow. Considering how young the industry is, it's all right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I watched that too. I'm like, are these PPAs that good? You just keep that same 40-year-old turbine running?
Oh, yeah.
They got to be.
Yeah,
Somehow it makes sense.
Yeah.
Somehow it makes sense. So from oil and gas to renewables, and you're right, the folks needing a permit, maybe building a new site. There's a lot of timing, right? The demand from the people, the country,
Sure.
And then you have policy. You got federal policy, you got state policy, you got political jargon.
Oh yeah.
Jargon's not even the right. Political banter, right? That can cause a problem here or there, but I don't see any problems. And I think we talk about, we don't do politics here, right? But we think we need still a good mix of all these energy types, right? Diversity is important in all aspects, in energy. Energy independence and the price down, pull people out of poverty, as you say. You need the diversity. Do you agree with that? I guess that's my opinion, but.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, there's a time and place for just about everything, There's no reason to pick one over the other. And, I think as you see just the cost curves and everything else, everything in wind and solar beats anybody's, perfect projections. And so, you bring all that together and it'll allow people to live in new, different, crazy places, and that's the end goal, right?
Plus, it keeps more competition, right? And with more competition, you get more innovation.
Yep.
Kind of like, sounds like you and your the founding group, you came outside of renewables, saw this opportunity and went, I can bring some innovation into this.
Yeah.
I can bring something that the other folks might have, haven't yet.
Well, this might just be my read on the market, but some of the software developers that I like the most are like some of the most ardent libertarians of like, gold and everything else. But, if you've written software long enough, anytime someone from the business is like, this will always be the case, or this will never happen, you're like, right, sure. And
let me sign up.
Yeah. And then you write that, and, 3 hours later, it's like, well, except for, and, then you have to go rewrite half of the back end and all the software. And like, it's very frustrating. And so you find, at least in my experience, some of the best developers are these very like, we shouldn't try to control the world from the top. Like, it's as flexible as you can write software, as flexible as you can do these things. And that seems to permeate into their, nothing centrally will always work for everyone. Thus, don't try to do that. And anyway, I don't know if I'm fully on board with the entire thesis, but like, I think having all that flexibility is super important, whether you're developing software, building out energy grids or whatnot. Like, use the right thing in the right spot. That seems like a reasonable answer.
If something's not changing, it's deteriorating, in my opinion.
Yep.
Right? You need that constant change. It's difficult, but without it, you're just deteriorating.
Yeah.
It's just getting old.
There was when we were building out profiles in Dispatch, we talked with a lot of techs, and one of the things we kept hearing was the company I used to work for wouldn't give me my certs. Like they were held hostage by that. And I don't know, unilaterally, I was like, we're giving everyone their certs always in the app. And like, so you can go put, I don't know, there's like 300 industry standard certs. So you can just load them in your OSHA and first aid and blah, 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 blah. But, if the only reason a company is retaining an employee is because they won't hand them their cert, like, you're a crappy employer. Like, I mean, hopefully you come to that.
Is that even allowed? I haven't heard of this one, I guess.
But. Yeah, but some of the bigger OEM based certs, they will more or less just refuse to give them up to the technicians. And so they feel like they were kind of held career wise on not being able to move to new companies. And I don't know, my own opinion was that wasn't cool. So now it's like all of them are just on the app. And so, yeah.
I agree. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool. No. If you earned your certificate, you have every right to hang that on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
oh, man. Okay. So you put those in the app, too. That's handy.
Yeah.
Easy to find. Easy to share, too, with customers and sites and folks that want to reference them. And
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. This is very cool. Are we getting out about it? Yeah, we're getting about there. So anything else you want to share or?
No, I mean, I think that covers it. We've got a bunch of cool stuff in the app. You can download it on any one of the app stores. You can check out dispatch.app on the website and actually see the prevailing wage stuff in action. And then feel free to reach out to myself, Alex, at dispatch.work, WORK. And yeah, we can have you get a full demo, kick the tires, whatever you like.
Very cool. Dispatch.work.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. With the vowel.
Yes. The one vowel. Yeah.
The one vowel. Like we can buy a vowel on work. I'm so happy you came up here and shared this story with us and told us more about yourself as well. Looking forward to, I'm sure I'll run into you at Intersolar.
For sure.
Jacob and I will be down there. Ross is coming with me, so we'll enjoy some San Diego time.
Nice. Yeah.
Appreciate you making the trip out.
Likewise,
this has been great to get to know you better.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again.